All right. So, how did you get on with the exercise? Hopefully, you've got a lot more understanding of the power of goal setting and sort of taking it to a new level. If you haven't done the exercise yet, please pause the video again and then start cracking on with that, because it's really important that we go through these things in sequence so that they stack up in order. Okay. So, on to the next part. So, what I often hear, and another reason plans don't work, is because they're too restrictive and don't allow for spontaneity. And what I'm hearing when a client says it's too restrictive is essentially there's not enough options, or there's too few calories. And I completely get it. You know, if you've got a special event in the calendar, maybe a milestone birthday or a significant celebration, that the last thing you want to do is feel guilty about not following your plan. But this is actually a relatively easy fix, to be honest. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. And I can show you how we helped Gabriella actually address this issue, because this is exactly how she felt. So, firstly, in terms of spontaneity, let's address that. We said, already, you don't have to be perfect, right? That's not an expectation. It's just not realistic. And I think actually a lot of the reason why um, meal plans or fitness attempts or weight loss attempts or getting lean attempts are derailed is because there is that expectation of, if I'm not perfect, it's not worth doing. And that can't be further from the truth, because in order to accomplish your goals, you can have, 3 or 4 meals per week that are, off plan, or, not necessarily fitness specific, and you can still accomplish your goals. You can still achieve your goals. And as you can see, it's worked a treat for Gabriella. That's exactly what she did. She'd have a few meals per week that, were completely left field, whether it would be, bottles of wine, or dinners out, or, burgers, like whatever it was. You can see, like, she still had a really significant, result, like particularly around her midsection. So it completely works. You don't have to be perfect, and we can dive deeper into that a bit later in another slide. But secondly, what we did was address the lack of options issue. So what we did was actually introduce Gabby to new recipe books that fit her body type and let her choose what she wanted to make that week. So she had that flexibility to be spontaneous. So she had her overall plan, and then she could, pick different things if she didn't want to stay like precisely on the plan the whole way. So let's look at secret number two, which is recipe books. So, recipe books, there's plenty of categories to choose from. So you've got, just your general healthy books. So, like this one from Gordon Ramsay's great. You've got paleo books. You've got low carb books, or veggie books, vegetarian books. But whatever it is, it's really simple with recipe books, especially if you get, one of these three, is just make it fun by trying something new. Just add in that spontaneity. Just pick whatever you want. It doesn't have to be perfect. Honestly, it's like just flick through the book and take your pick. Because you can't really ultimately go wrong with any of these options. And then just pick one new meal to try each week. Just see what you fancy, pick it out, and then just have some fun with it. Have some fun with the family with it as well. If you've got, the family involved in the cooking, just get everybody included, and it really makes a real big difference to that sense of restriction that sometimes can come with following a meal plan. So that's a really, really sort of big one, is just getting yourself a few recipe books. Now, another common reason meal plans don't work, and I've heard this, many, many, many times, multiple times, is that belief that if I fall off track, then I'm a failure. Like I feel like a failure, or it's not working. And we don't need to have this all or nothing mindset when it comes to food, because it's just not healthy, right? And it's an unrealistic expectation. But it's an easy fix. It's simply a perspective shift. Because if you think about it from a number standpoint, it really starts to make sense. And I'll show you what I mean. So let's say you have 3 meals a day, right? That's what most people have on average. Maybe yours is slightly different, but the concept is still the same. So let's say you have 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, right? So that's 21 meals per week. So if you followed your plan only 80% of the time, you can still get all the results you want, just like you saw with Gabby on the previous slides, right? All the results you want by just following a plan 80% of the time, right? So that would mean of those 21 meals per week, if you had 4 meals that weren't on plan, you'd still get results. So if you really think about it, that could be a Friday evening. Maybe you want a takeaway with the family, completely fine. That still works, right? And then maybe on the Saturday, you want an ice cream with the kids and your partner. Again, you're still on plan, right? Because that's 2 meals. And then let's say on Sunday, you wanted a fry up in the morning, right? Completely fine, right? You'll still be on plan and no drama, no issues. So you can see, when you look at it from a number standpoint, you don't need perfection. All we need is progress, right? So as long as we're doing our tracking, then we're completely fine. We don't need you, and you don't need to put that expectation and that pressure on yourself to be perfect. So that was, a complete turning point also for one of our clients, Willa. So I'll just pull up her picture here. So when she realized that she didn't have to be perfect, she actually planned the cheat meals ahead of time, right? And she got phenomenal results. And this is like such a Willa picture in her before picture, literally with the pint in her hand, right? And she still got phenomenal results just by keeping that mindset of progress over perfection, right? That's way more important over the long term. And you can see she got exceptional results just from being consistent and not being too hard on herself. So what she found was really helpful was having three nutrition consultations over a 3 month period. And what that did is it gave her an opportunity to get a custom meal plan and then tweak it regularly. And then guess what happened? She started to get results. And then that motivated her even more. And then she got into this, virtuous cycle of, eat well, get results, love the feeling of getting results, continue to eat well, right? And so she was in this positive cycle, which is really a cycle of results, right? Which I'll show you now is this sort of virtuous cycle of belief. And I've just seen this happen so many times with all these clients that you've seen, images of. Is initially, if we let's say we start off in that bottom left box of belief and certainty, right? So there's only a little bit of belief that they can accomplish these goals and accomplish their goals that they've set for themselves. And so they just only then tap into a little bit of their potential, but then they take a little bit of action and then they get a bit of results. And then now all of a sudden, their belief has grown, right? And their certainty has grown. They start to feel like, oh wow, I can really do this. Like this is really great. Like I'm feeling stronger. I'm getting leaner. I'm sleeping better. That sense of well-being, that sense of energy, like all of it is just all those markers are just going up and up and up and up. And naturally now their belief in themselves is growing. Their confidence in themselves is growing, and so then they tap into even more of their potential, right? So now they're just like, wow, I can really do this, right? They're going through the process without doubts. And so then, of course, then they take even more action, right? So then they start reading more recipe books and taking more recipe books and maybe turning up to more sessions, or when they're in the session, training even harder because now they really believe in this process, and so then therefore then they get better and more results, right? So you can see how this virtuous cycle of belief really works, and so this concept is really important to keep in mind as you're going through your training and in your sessions. All right, so that is an intro into secret number three, which Willa did, which was getting a custom meal plan. So for Willa, for example, what she found when she was getting a custom meal plan, the benefits really were, having that 60 minutes to discuss her goals and, her personal obstacles and personal challenges, which is unique to every individual. Everyone's situation is different. So whether there's environmental challenges or physical challenges or people challenges or, you know, um, actual nutrition limitations in terms of foods that they want to eat, whatever it happens to be, um, you know, having that 60 minutes just enabled her to communicate all of those clearly to us. Then we sat down and calculated her needs specifically for her body type, which means, again, it's fully customized and individualized. And then she got the monthly meetings to monitor her progress and then make tweaks and adjustments along the way, because it's very rare for the plan just to be perfect straight out of the gate. Oftentimes, there's just a few adjustments that are needed to make it right for the person, right? Maybe their day starts at a slightly different time, and those sorts of things. Just small adjustments, which make a big difference. And then the plan was adjustable to suit her needs and her daily routine, so it's not rigid at all, which meant that it just enabled her for it to fit her day in her way without any sort of inbuilt difficulties or challenges. So then lastly, it enabled her to get her favorite foods built into the plan, because it's a customized plan. So of course, by doing that, it becomes a lot more enjoyable if you're basically eating she was basically eating her favorite foods along the way. So that's really what she used to make the difference and take her from where you saw her in the before picture to the after. So what you could do to sort of take advantage of this is book a call with us to learn more about getting a custom meal plan if that's something that you feel would be beneficial for you. So for non-CBH members, custom meal plans are £120, and then for CBH members, the price for a meal plan is £70. All right, so you can just get in touch with us if you'd like to learn more about that, just to kind of give you an example of what um, some of the meals may look like, or just really the format of it, because your meals will be completely different. But this is essentially the format. So you can see, clients are able to eat pancakes, and it's just very unique recipes that enable them to be able to still eat great foods that taste amazing, but then still meet the nutritional requirements and needs. So you'll be able to essentially get the ingredients list, and then you also get the recipes so that you can make the meals really easily. And so it tells you also how long it's going to take to make. We can customize the meal plan so that if there is a time limitation, we can make and set it so that all the meals take less than 20 minutes to make. So this everything's adjustable completely. I mean, there's more variables than I can even think of off the top of my head. But yeah, this is essentially what it would look like, and then you would have several of these plans in place. So then next, another reason meal plans don't often work, or at least this is what I hear really often, is the belief that because it's not worked in the past, it won't work in the future. And I understand, look, if you're really hesitant, because nobody likes to fail, nobody likes that feeling of failure, because it feels very personal, right? And it feels like all of this energy and time has been invested, and essentially feels like a waste because you haven't got the outcome and the results. But I always like to remind clients of Nelson Mandela's approach to failure. And what he says is, and this is a really important quote: I never lose. I either win or I learn, right? So if if you really think about that, essentially what he's saying is every loss, there's no, or every sort of failure isn't a loss, right? So if plans didn't work for you in the past, it's because there was something missing oftentimes. Maybe there was no clear goals in place, or maybe it wasn't just fun enough, maybe it wasn't adaptable enough, maybe it wasn't customized for you. But just because it didn't work in the past doesn't mean meal plans won't work for you in the future, right? There's something that we can take from it. There's a learning in there, a lesson in there, that if we see it and are aware of it, then we can address it and then use it for our next attempt, and then we can get the results then, right? And Fifi had this exact same concern. She had tried several meal plans in the past, and when I first even mentioned the meal plan to her, she literally rolled her eyes at me. And after like a long discussion, she told me, I've tried ABC in the past, like this is going to be like the sixth plan that I'm on, and I really don't think it's going to work for me. Right? She just really sort of just uh, gave it to me straight and up front, and was just like, I think this is going to be a waste of time. But as you can see from the images, it definitely wasn't a waste of time. Her goal was to build more muscle, and burn a bit of fat around her midsection, which you can clearly see that she accomplished. And what Fifi found was the final piece of the puzzle for her was an environmental clear out. So let me talk a little bit about that. So secret number 4 is the environmental clear out. So set up your environment for success. If you think about it, if your kids were to, let's say, let's make this less about you specifically, and let's look at it from another perspective. Let's say your kids had homework to do, and they had the TV on, and they had YouTube on their iPad, and then they were FaceTiming their friends at the same time. How much work do you think they'd actually get done? Like, not much, right? And why is that? It's because their environment isn't set up to benefit them. It's the exact same for your health and fitness goals. How you set up your environment is more than half the battle. And what I often hear, and a common excuse is, what about the kids when it comes to, doing environmental clear outs? So what I mean by clear outs, just to be specific, is, clearing out damaging foods. So, whether that's like sugary foods, savory snacks, like that sort of stuff, just the obvious things that we all know we shouldn't be eating. And so when I hear, but what about the kids? Like, what will happen? Like, what if my kids want that sort of stuff, and all that food's only in the house or in the cupboard because my kids eat it, and it always makes me laugh because most parents create rules for their kids. For example, you've got to go to school on time, or you've got to do your homework. However, as soon as it comes to that pack of digestive biscuits in the cupboard, they lose the ability to set boundaries and rules for their kids, like, to guide their children to ultimately making the right decisions. Because, you don't parents don't want their kids eating that sort of stuff either, right? If you really think about it. So let's just be honest and upfront. The parent basically wants to keep the biscuits around for themselves, right? Because unless the kids are deciding whether or not they go to school, or deciding major decisions in the household, essentially they're one of the parents, or they're just all round rebels. let's just remove the kids completely as an excuse, because then they're not an excuse for having like unsuitable foods in the house. So what Fifi did was actually to help her with this environmental clear up, because naturally, of course, if you live with other people, your actions are going to impact them. Like, I'm not saying that that's not the case, of course that is, but what we can do is make this a collective effort. So what Fifi did was actually involve her partner in her new healthy eating habits. So they did the food shop together. They ate the same foods. Obviously, he had larger portions. When he cooked, they enjoyed following the plan because he didn't have to think about, what should I make today. The plan was just there, so he just followed the plan. So these couple of simple steps just made it so much easier for her, because then she didn't have to cook, two different sets of meals. So involving your partner, involving your spouse is a really powerful tactic and strategy, or whatever you want to call it, to actually accomplishing an environmental clear out. And it's really about replacement, not restriction. So what do I mean? I mean, make it make alternatives, make healthy alternatives instead of just cutting things out. Because cutting things out, you're going to feel that sense of loss, and then you're going to want to fill that with something else, right? So rather than cutting things out purely, an example would be, instead of having Walker's crisps, just make apple crisps. A really simple recipe, where you just chop up some apples, put some cinnamon on it if you like cinnamon, and then stick them in the oven for a few minutes, and then they really crisp up and they taste amazing, even better than Walker's crisps, to be honest. And so things like that, if you've got a real savory tooth and you love things like crisps, that is a really great replacement. And then ultimately, you want to fill the fridge with all the meal plan ingredients already at the beginning or the end of the week, or the middle of the week, whenever you do your shopping. But basically, just pack the fridge full of all those ingredients so that you're more tempted to grab for those rather than grab for the foods that aren't going to be, help you towards your goals. So let's finish on some actions. You've done a few exercises already as we've been talking today. But what I want you to do is not feel overwhelmed, and I really, really don't want you to try all of these things at once. I just want you to pick one, because the one that you feel will have the most impact for you, because there's a lot of power in just doing one thing consistently rather than trying, five things sporadically or intermittently. So just pick the one of the secrets that we went through today that you think is going to be most impactful for you, and start with that. So whether it's setting up your environment for success, or booking a nutrition session with us, or ordering a low carb recipe book, or setting goals. And I think actually the setting goals one should be, one of the mandatory ones, and then actually then picking one of the others as well, because that goal setting is really that foundation. So setting the goals and getting many, many, many reasons why, right? So they're looking at those different categories. So socially, financially, emotionally, self-confidence, right? So go back to that part of the video if you haven't done that, or if you feel like you need to go deeper into it because you didn't have enough time in the 10 minutes, then you can do that. All right, so just pick one of these things that you think is going to have the most impact, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the results that you get as a result of taking these actions. All right, so I just leave you on a little bit of a quote here from Golda. So she said, make the most of yourself by fanning the tiny inner sparks of possibility into the flames of achievement. All right. So it all just starts with that one small action. and you really don't know, especially over time, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, where that one little action, where it's going to take you as a result. All right. Really enjoyed doing this for you guys. Let me know what you thought of it, and see you soon.